Hello, hello. Come on in. So, we've been talking a lot about procrastination, and so many people have said to me, Dylan, it's just procrastination. Like, it's not a big deal. But what we don't understand is that procrastination is way more than you think it is. And it does more to you than you think it does. Okay? Procrastination, we know this. We've already talked about this. It's like your to-do list, your tasks that you got to do, right? But there's all of these like psychological factors that kind of go into it as well. It's like this, there's this whole dopamine, which is like your feel good neurotransmitter, okay? It's your feel good hormone that that rewards us, right? And there's this whole factor with dopamine and how it plays a huge role in like motivating us and like pleasure and reward and all the things, right? So when we procrastinate, we're not only avoiding the task at hand, but we are also seeking instant gratification from these dopamine hits. Okay. And there's like tons of research on this, you guys. Okay. Because there's research that actually tells us that the anticipation of completing a task is actually greater and it will trigger your dopamine release in your brain in the same way that you get in actually accomplishing the task. Okay, so the anticipation of the reward creates the same effect as actually doing it, right? So if you're going like, I don't understand why I keep procrastinating, like this is why, okay? Because you're getting the same reward. And we have so many things that can distract us and like reinforce the procrastination, okay? So first, what I need you to do is you got to take responsibility for your procrastination habit, because that's exactly what it is. It's a habit. Okay. And it's one that has developed over time through repeated behavior. And then we reinforce it. And then like our dopamine hits reinforce it. It feels good. Even though you're like, I don't like it. You keep doing it. So you keep doing it because it's habit and it's reinforced. Okay. We're no different than Pavlov's dog. Okay, folks. Okay, but the sooner you acknowledge it, then you can start to take responsibility for your actions and begin to break the cycle. Okay, if you're interested in starting to break the cycle, I'm actually having a workshop on this next week, 3 days, 1 hour a day. We're going to start to break the cycle. Okay, so if you're interested in that, make sure you pop on in. Okay, because the thing is right now what's happening is we succumb to the distractions that we need in order to fulfill that instant gratification. Okay, so the first step is always just cultivating that self-awareness and mindfulness so that we can identify that we're falling into the trap of procrastination. Okay, so by understanding what your triggers, what your patterns, all the things that you've linked to procrastination, you got to understand what those look like for you. Okay. One really effective way of doing this, and again, we'll dive deeper into it next week, is like really being intentional and having a plan in place. Okay. So, and I'll teach you all about what I do, because I used to be an expert procrastinator, and I'm crazy productive now, like productive in the ways that actually get stuff done versus saying I'm going to do it and then not doing it. Because for me, you guys, what I was finding is that it was chipping away at my self-confidence. Okay, every time you don't do what you say you're going to do, it just chip, until we find ourselves letting ourselves off the hook in all the other ways in our lives. until your life eventually just isn't even recognizable. You've now you used to have standards on the amount of money you were going to make, your job, your relationships, your health, and now they're all, and you stop trusting yourself. My biggest piece that I was noticing was I used to be crazy confident until I wasn't. Okay. Each time I failed to follow through with what I said I was going to do, whether it was like a promise to myself or to other, it would chip away at my self-confidence. Purely because I wasn't honoring what I said I was going to do. And if you look at your procrastination habits, you've probably done the same thing. Like you'll set your mind to something, you'll say, oh, I'm going to do that. And automatically you go, you're not going to do it. You know, you're not going to do it. And then when you don't do it, that voice inside your head goes, see, told you weren't going to do it. Okay. And we start to lose trust in ourselves. Okay. When we repeatedly break those promises and neglect to show up, that's what we do to ourselves. We think, oh, no one will notice. No one even knew I was going to do that anyways. I didn't commit out loud to it. You don't need to commit to things out loud. You've already committed. The moment you say you're going to do something, you know about it. You know about it. So then the moment you don't do it, guess what? You also know about that too. Could you imagine if you like hung out with somebody that kept saying out loud, oh, I'll do that, and then they didn't do it? Eventually something would come out of their mouth and you'd be like, whatever, you're not going to do it. Right? You might even know these people. You've just lost trust in that part of them. They don't show up. They don't show up. That's it. Okay. And then what happens is you begin to doubt your capabilities and start to question whether you even have what it takes to do anything. And this is where everything else starts to kind of go downhill. All the other areas of your life, we let ourselves off the hook. Okay, because what you do it once and then it sets the precedent for similar behavior in other areas. And we'll rationalize our procrastination or we'll avoid different aspects of our lives. But then this just leads to unreliability. Okay, and then what happens is this not only impacts our professional relationships, but our personal relationships. And that one person I just had you think about that you lost trust that they were actually going to show up and do what they said, others start feeling that way about you. Arguably, though, it's even worse that you feel that way about yourself. You might not do it out in the open, but I'm telling you, the moment you start to take responsibility for this feeling and for the fact that you're doing this over and over again, you'll realize, yep, I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to do anything big. That's what somebody said to me the other day. They're like, when it comes to little stuff, I trust myself. Oh yeah, for sure. What they were really saying is they trust themselves to be in survival mode. But when it goes to doing anything outside the box that they put themselves in, I'm out. There's no way. I'll say I'm going to do it and then I don't do it. Or I'll read about it, or I'll watch on Facebook other people doing it, or I'll listen to a podcast where they talked about how they did it, or I'll read the book about how they did it. I'll consume all this content. I'll be this content junkie on the topic of what it is I say I'm going to do, but I won't actually do it. How's that? And then what? 6 months later, they're at this exact same point. They have this realization, oh crap, I said I was going to do that, didn't do it. And it's just this cycle. Okay, the goal is to have the self-image of someone that has trust and confidence in themselves. But it starts by taking responsibility for these actions and habits and setting these expectations, prioritizing consistency, having integrity. making conscious efforts to honor what it is that you say you're going to do, the only way to do that first is to be inspired by what you want to do, right? And this is where in the workshop next week, first, what we're going to do is we're going to get you inspired to do something. Yes, we're going to understand procrastination and but we're going to get you inspired. Half the stuff you're taking on and then procrastinating and then building up this like loop of, oh, I never do it, is because you don't want to do it. Yet you keep taking on the same sort of thing and then wondering why you're not doing it and setting yourself up for failure. It's very common. It's okay. Don't judge yourself. And then it's about creating the plan. Creating the plan. So we're going to get into creating a plan for what it is that you say you're going to do. And we're going to build in some traits into your self-image that are going to have you embracing growth and being resilient to this. Because procrastination has been your habit up until now. Again, not for everyday things, because you'll be like, well, I don't procrastinate all the time. But for the things that are moving you the needle forward, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Do you know how you'll know? You've had an idea that you wanted something, and then when you checked in on it, 6 months later, a year later, 10 years later, you're like, where did that thought go? Oh, I put it off. And then I made an excuse. And then this happened. And then you'll have all the reasons on why. Okay. So always the way it works. And I didn't do it. I promise you, this doesn't have to be hard. I'm telling you, I went from procrastinating everything that scared me. We're going to talk about that too. But the moment you can move past that and start getting some wins under your belt, then that little voice in your head that doesn't currently trust you, you'll earn back the trust. Like my paradigm, my habits, I call her Linda. She knows I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And that's why half the stuff that pops in my head, she's like, oh, crap. Like I feel fear almost every day because I've now programmed her that the moment I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Like she can't talk me out of it now. Where she spent the first 30 years of my life talking me out of a lot of things. Anything that was outside the box that I had put myself in. Okay. I'm going to link up the registration link for you guys. I cannot wait to see you. And I'm actually facilitating this with a fellow Pursuit Institute coach, Melissa, and it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to chat procrastination with you guys. I can't wait to help you work through it because it's an absolute game changer. It's a free event. Get in there. See you guys.